sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich
vantage point,
and can provide for everyone.
Might not seem of any particular interest.
But we have lost the way.
But for us, it's
Greed
different.
has poisoned men's souls.
Consider again that
Has
dot.
barricaded the world with hate.
That's here.
Has goose-stepped us into
That's
misery
home.
and bloodshed.
That's us.
We have developed speed.
On
We
it,
have shut ourselves in.
everyone you love,
Machinery that gives abundance
everyone you
has left
know,
us in want.
everyone
Our knowledge
you
has
ever
made us
heard
cynical.
of,
Our
every
cleverness
human
hard and
being who ever
unkind.
was,
We think too
lived
much,
out their lives.
feel too little. More
the
than machinery,
aggregate of our
we
joy
need
and
humanity.
suffering.
More than cleverness, we need...
Thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines. Every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in
Lived
want.
there, on a mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings. How eager they are to kill one another.
Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed.
Fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe, are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet.
Bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die.
Of men
and the
will
power
pass.
they took from the people will return to the people. And
It
so
will
long as men
return
die,
to you and I.
liberty will never perish. Soldiers, Don't
and
give yourselves to
liberty
brutes.
will never perish.
Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines.
You are not
cattle.
machines,
You are
my
men.
friend.
You have the love of
You are the lucky few on a tiny little speck, like Carl Sagan was saying.
Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
The only home we'll ever know. For at every moment in time, everybody that you've ever thought of, everything you've ever thought of, everything we've ever been, the greatness of humanity, the wildness, the magic of experience, it's been here on this dust. The great leaders have tried to take us all somewhere they wanted to go. Though great minds have shown us new ways. Though
That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering. Thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines. Every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization. Every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on the mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam.
on the
The
tiniest
Earth is a very small stage.
little piece of dust, my friends, which makes us great, which makes you great. It makes you great for being here, too. Thank you so much for joining. Come on in. Kick off your shoes. Ladies and gentlemen, hobos and tramps, cries of mosquitoes, and bow-legged ants, I stand before you to sit behind you to tell you something I actually today know quite a bit about. I welcome you into the ministry of the Flying Pig. I am your host, so to speak, the minister of the Dadaist belief that wildness ensues when you allow yourself to express it in a good way. Because why not? We are so special. We are great. You are great. That's why that's why we're here, right? To express how awesome it is, how awesome Sunday is, that we're all doing this together. And thank you, by the way, for being here. Hold on a second. Let me make sure that the chat, the chitter chatter, is actually updating properly. And yeah, where are you, chitter chatter? Chatter and the chitter. Oh, there you are. Hey, what's going on? Pretty. All right. So if you're not familiar with what we do here on the ministry of the Flying Pig, we celebrate a very simple idea that was kind of coined by, it wasn't completely coined, but it was kind of coined by the late, great Steinbeck, the writer, whose publishing company and ideology stemmed around the idea that you can be great, that you can find your own amazingness in some very normal things, but it's by allowing the unbelievable, the unexpected, out of you. And it's an individual thing. It's not something that just is it's not something that is one tone or one rule. So take what you will. We're not, I'm not here to push any one ideology, or to tell you that you've got to have something that you don't already have, or anything other than to welcome you in because it's fun. Because it's something different. Because we share ideas here. We share our hearts. We share our being. You can even testify to the things you've experienced that may have helped you to find a better day, to find something more wonderful in life, that helped you understand life just that little bit more. So, before we plug on in here, let me just take a sip of the old caffeine. Yeah, the orchestra's killing it today. I'm sorry. Got that slow, like, amphitheater or is my phone making that? Yeah, I must still have the stream on my phone. Where the hell did I do with the? I have lost my phone on stream right in front of you, and it's probably in my pocket. Oh yeah, it's only in one of my 8 pockets right now. Sorry about that. I'm out of frame too. Let me pause that to get back into it. Thanks for being here, by the way. I'm so glad you could be here. I got some fun and really neat stuff to share. I believe that we, as a species, are astonishing. We're great. You're great. We do so many things that are unexpected, unreasonably magical, special, thoughtful, but most off, in our greatness, we find a lot of folly, a lot of, ways that we undo ourselves the greater we attempt to be. And one of these things that I would say is important to take into consideration is that even at the highest level, even at the greatest level, there is, maybe a wistfulness to grow. Because maybe sometimes people feel like they've hit the roof. But I'm telling you right now, no matter where you are in life, whether you're at the bottom or the top, somewhere in the middle, in the doldrums, friends, life has options, beautiful options for every one of us. And of course I turn the phone off while I'm doing iPhones. Come on, folks. Yeah, so thank you for being here. It's a wonderful Sunday. At least out here in California, it's roasting. It's just roasting. You can cook on the pavement out there. And what a good day to be sharing with y'all. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you for hanging on out. I'm going to go back to the first thing I was playing, which is a clip called The Great Dictator Speech. And if you're not familiar with this, it's a clip in a film called The Great Dictator, and it's starring Charlie Chaplin, the famous silent movie star, who essentially only spoke a few times on film. And this is the first time the public ever heard his voice after watching him for many years. And it was because the message was so important. And I think you heard it, but I'm going to play it again just because I believe it's something that resonates to this day, and very much so right now. Let's see if I turn that down. Oh, yeah. Oh, I must have moved past it. Here it is.
What's happened to him?
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business.
Let me shrink down.
I don't want to rule or conquer anyone.
Oops.
I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We
Should
all
get
want to
comfortable
help
while
one
he's
another.
talking.
Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful. But we have lost the
Approximately
way.
20 billion people.
Greed has
when I
poisoned
read.
men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind.
Seems like
We
a
think
good day
too
for the
much,
party roads.
feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness.
That's the
Without
truth.
these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world. Millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and
Oh,
dictators
lovely.
die.
Thanks for coming
and
through,
the power they
LimeWire.
took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you
I
like cattle,
appreciate that.
use
I
you
will
as
definitely
cannon
hit that
fodder.
up after
Don't give
show.
yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men.
You are
have the
men
love
and
of
women
humanity in your
and
hearts. You don't
human.
hate. Only the unloved hate. The unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery. Fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power. The power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the...
I love that, LimeWire. I think it plays into what I'm talking about actually today, about how some folks would rather embrace the worst in themselves or the worst in others as like a car crash, holding on to it to basically, review it. Well, I actually think it aged well, considering that what he's talking about there is he was playing and making fun of Hitler straight out, which was dangerous in itself. And then to make the point of this is before World War II, by the way. This was made in 1938, 39. So everyone who knows, tell the truth, Tom, Ron. I've got your back, LimeWire. Actually, I've been looking for something a little more extended this week, so I will definitely bring it to light if that's what's needed for certain. Happy to do so. I know the circles you run, so absolutely. I think this actually aged better in the sense that it is an expression of the time that can be echoed throughout time. We haven't achieved it yet, but that's part of what he's talking about. This is a never-ending goal of humanity, that we strive to have this further interaction with ourselves. That's why I express this in the title today, which is that we are great, and we have to give ourselves the room for this because there's so much time in life in most cases. Here, let's let him finish it off.
In the name of democracy,
go to
let us
Sagan
use
again.
that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
So much about that is something we can remind ourselves to get hyped up about it. To remind ourselves that there's a never-ending fight within ourselves and others and the world to be greater than the current day, to keep moving forward, to keep evolving, to keep the systems evolving, to keep them working in our favor, to keep ourselves great. And to remind us of this, I'm going to share it one more time. Did I stutter? What happened here? Oh, a second. Input left, input right. Okay, no, I got you. Oh.
That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on a mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how
To remember
their hatreds.
that we are but a tiny speck of dust is to remember how much we've done. And how we can allow ourselves to become more from any given moment, which is the general message that I share on any given day, but on Sunday specifically, because we're here with a flying pig. Somewhere around here. Let me see. Where is that flying pig? I think he's, they are. There they are. Hey, what up? All right, there they are. To remember that that's available within us all, because we're so special on this tiny little bead, tiny little planet. And I want to remind you that when you're watching this show, I try to bring just a joy, just a reverence. And yeah, that's right, Tom. We maybe haven't achieved all that, but that's part of the greatness. We're going to strive. We're going to continue to strive. We're never going to stop. We have this evolutionary need to better ourselves. Hopefully not to our own worst end, but I don't think we will. That's why I believe that many of us are here. I think we tend to see the world as better than worse, and that we're seeing and looking for those better answers, and we in ourselves to start with. Which reminds me, I think we should all remember one of the things about the show that...
Cosmicast live 24 hours a day with, of course, local access periodically.
This is true.
Programming you're about to see will actually accelerate your evolution. 10 lifetimes per viewing.
I guess you all know that every one of you is watching a different show, and to provide better programming, we are watching you.
Watch! All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's get back to, the more important material.
Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe.
The illusion, the privilege,
of pale light.
the sense of ourselves.
Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves.
No, and that's what it comes down to.
The only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else,
expect it,
at least in the near future,
not that anybody's going to come for us.
Species could migrate. Visit? Yes.
Maybe.
Settle? Not yet.
Unlikely.
Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience.
That's for sure.
Perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
Yeah, cherish what you got. It's the only place we know. And when you look at the larger picture, and as we move on, by the way, I just want to remind you one more time, because it's very important to keep in mind that...
Cosmocast live 24 hours a day with, of course, local access periodically. Programming you're about to see will actually accelerate your evolution.
10 lifetimes for viewing. That is a quantifiable, unfounded truth.
Every one of you is watching a different show, and to provide better programming,
we are watching you watch. And just another little moment about this, just to remind you.
We scientists call it polyscopic hypnovation, or a state of accelerated, unexpected events taking place in a perpetually delirious assault on the accepted and the unexpected.
What an appalling and dreadful muddle for Norman Jones. Trapped in a broadcast warp designed to evolve mankind, our heroes...
To evolve mankind? Can you imagine what happens after you have a whole life of evolving?
My name is Clifford, but call me Cliff Crozier, and I was born on 6th of September 1950.
And what kind of experiences you can allow yourself to have, and how you can become a whole other person when you realize that we have
I was born in
a long experience to have.
Cheshire.
So might as well make it as great as it could be, right?
The war and the time I was at college have been all there all my life. I've been retired now for 38 years. It always pleases me, though, that they keep robbing the government, really, of the pension.
I love that. He's been, I'm sorry, did you miss that? He said he's been on pension.
It's only a number. 101 is only a number.
38 years. I want you to think about that. He's been on pension, retired, for 38 years. He says he's been robbing the government the whole time. I love that. Longer than some of the people in the chat have been alive. Tom says, I don't think that to see human as God-given to be so bad. Not true, but a good instinct. Jesus, Buddha, Enoch are the way into heaven. I think we're in heaven, personally. And I tend to talk about that. And there's actually a great episode about how there's, the belief that the experience is what you make it. And only as good as the things you allow it to be. And I think this video is a great example, because these folks are, his pension is older than most of the chatters happen to be in a lot of the chats I'm in, for Christ's sake. It's crazy. But yes, transcendent experience is helpful to find a heaven on earth. That is for certain.
A spot of whiskey occasionally helps.
Ha!
Although
That
it's
too.
not on the national health.
I have so many fond memories.
Oh, hi there.
Sometimes
How
sit
you
down
doing?
in my chair and I think back. And I try
Oh,
to
hi,
sort of
Tom. What's happening?
reorganize
Hold on a
this
second.
story about these people.
How you
that I
feeling?
have got.
I'm good. Have you come to testify? Let me turn the music down.
Yeah, because I think you misunderstood my comment.
Oh, sure. No sweat. Let me
in the
turn
video you just showed about the size of the planet and we are a speck of dust in the universe and blah blah blah, and
Sorry. Yeah.
the illusion of being of some importance in the cosmic scheme of things.
Sure.
And you kind of reacted with some enthusiasm that I don't really understand. Like, isn't it kind of cynical to diminish the importance of humankind in such a way?
No. I think you may be misreading me. I'm talking about how wonderful we are in both the fact that we are such a tiny dust speck, and how special we are because we are just a dust speck. And I was actually about to share about how rare a species, a rarer thing we must be, and how the sentient life must be just, if we were to be egotistical about it, it would seem to be like the rarest of experiences, sentient physical life. So, which is what he's saying. As well.
You take its rarity as a good sign. Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think you maybe misread. I'm more enjoyous of the fact that it's so amazingly silly how large we think we are, and how even though we're great, the balance of this understanding of how we are tiny, and getting the reverence for that and how like awesome a speck we are, and not seeing us as like greater than, but great with. You know what I mean?
So what do you think? What do you think of the people who think that it's a bad thing to study anything in life from an anthropocentric point of view?
I mean, I think that's the stuff personally that I take in stride with other schools. I don't think that there's any one school that answers any and all of the questions. Actually, I have a great little thing I was going to read today that is a very challenging read. It's called The Masters of the Far East. Here, I'll pull it out. It's one of my favorite little, I get titles wrong. It's called Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. There's actually 6 books of this. It's written by a preacher in the 1890s, and his perception of what he saw of the Tibetan masters of, Buddhist arts, or the esoteric arts, I should say, because there's lots of really wild stuff in it. But it's written from the perspective of a person who has like a preacher's point of view. So you have to read through what he's saying. And he's giving credit to something that I might not believe in, but I understand what he means. If that makes any sense as an association to this, is like to see each other's schools of thought as valued, but that we could learn more from all the different pieces.
So you don't think it's pretentious or arrogant to see in other things behaviors to which we can relate to and stuff like that? You think it's not like sophistic, or you don't think there's anything wrong with that?
If used solely as the only judgment system, of course that would become solipsistic. I think it is important to, in any valuation system.
But it's usually applied in zoology when they study animal behaviors and such.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many. These are very interesting things. Only recently we started looking into the minds of actual minds and see how they function and work in response to stuff, to see stimuli actually responds, so we can get an idea of where and what is thinking. So we've only started to really understand that stuff. But yeah, I do understand what you're saying, like giving life to a spoon. Now, I do give credence to some of those things because we don't know. There's a certain amount of this, and I love, oh gosh, I'm blanking. I always get his name wrong. I read it so many years ago. It's Jitterbug Perfume and, oh God, Woodpecker, something else. Oh God, I can't, it's so long ago since I read these. But basically, there's stories about inanimate objects having life and experiences as esoteric metaphor, and I do give credence to the fact that we don't know about everything. So I always give everything a little grain of salt, that, or a little grain of sand, that there might be something I don't know, which that is part of my logic tree, though.
Seems to me like it's not the only, but one of the easiest way to understand animals in general is to, when you see yourself in some behavior, even though you cannot understand because they have no language, they cannot communicate with you.
Sure.
If you see a behavior that you can relate to, it probably is what is happening in that animal's mind, right? I'm not going into the Deepak Chopra type of theories.
Yeah.
He thinks that molecules have consciousness and everything. That's a bit too far, in my opinion. But
okay.
So
I have an interesting thought. I think that might be minimizing the actual effect of the all being, or whatever you want to call it, because the way they know that particles work and form into waveforms at the beginning of time as opposed to interacting with us directly. I think that is part of something we should take into consideration, that there is more of a larger meta awareness, just like you don't know what's happening inside your heart, but maybe all the molecules are working, they're working in Congress with one another in a way like a beehive, but they don't maybe have the thought the way we think they have thought, which is something else that,
going back to anthropocentrism, so you don't think that, do you think that the Christian saying that humankind is a reflection of God or the creation of God, do you think it, I know it's, the way I take it, I see religion as allegorical instead of literal. So the way I see it, it's probably not true that we were created by God per se, or you can play with the definition of God anyway at that point. But I don't think, even though if it's not true, I believe that it's still a good instinct to have.
Sure, I agree with you on that. I think faith in something connecting us, if that makes sense to that, is very important. I think that gives us the sense of greater being and ability to move forward. Although I think some people do take it to the point of I think you were the one who actually said something about TOS becoming God, but I think folks take things out of proportion and make things too much, which is often what I think the metaphor of the golden calf is about. Like, don't be careful, don't make it everything. And that's part of all of the logic I tend to use. Is as soon as I find myself biasing towards only one set of logics, or patterns or utilization of one school, I know that it's going to be off balance. I know that I'm not including some other value. But the point of today actually is in the ability to have this conversation and move ourselves along towards something more. I think that makes us great. I think that makes us some fucking amazing. What do you think, Tom?
I think it's always a question of balance. We have to recognize our own importance because anyway, from a survival perspective, you gotta give importance to yourself, your family, people close to you, and even by extension, probably the human race in general. But yes, to fall in the hubris or in the arrogance and pretentiousness is bad. So there's a balance to be reached between the 2 points there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, in general, it's a good pathway. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, and I appreciate you talking about the balance because there's nothing more important. I think when people, jump on the bandwagon and forget that there's other things to include, they might miss out on so much opportunity to win and fail. And I know you often talk about compassion and altruism. Sure.
But even which is kind of the opposite pole from what we're talking about.
Yeah,
and I think that even there's such a thing as too extreme a compassion or an altruism. If you neglect yourself for the benefit of others,
yeah, sure.
I think it's a point where it's not a good thing because if you neglect yourself, you'll probably won't last long enough anyway to be there for the people you wish you'd care for anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's part of it as well. And once again, it comes back to that balance, doesn't it, Tom, of finding the schools that don't just, if you find yourself picking up a whole bunch of weight on one side, you're going to fall over. That's, just as a direct metaphor. But I think that folks nowadays, and this is one of the reasons why I share this kind of stuff on Sundays, because I love to have this conversation. It's important to hear from everybody about how they get to these points in thought, because I don't think there's any one tool, any one way. I think that because there's so many of us with so many different diverse experiences, and you were talking about the overbalance of compassion. Yeah, to give oneself over to the point where you hurt yourself for the sake of others, and asceticism, and it can often be caused by determinism and also allowing oneself to fall into all kinds of just bad practices of imbalance. Yeah. I agree. Which is actually
about that video. Was it yesterday or the day before that you shown the video of this kid who was quote unquote kind of complaining about the fact that most people nowadays are
yes
inside. They practice activities that are all done inside, so when he goes out into nature or when he goes outside, he doesn't see as many people his age as he wish he would. And you were kind of saying that historically it's always been the case that people were more indoorsy rather than outdoors.
Not always. No, there have been evolutions of that through history. There's been like 5 or 6 that I found.
You seem to maybe it's the fact that he's complaining rather than providing solutions for that type of behavior. But don't you think that nowadays, because of technology, because of computing, because of the cell phone, etc., don't you think that he's probably right in his observation that nowadays it might be more intense than it used to be because of the potential of all these technologies?
No, I disagree. So I found a whole thing about this written by an observer of the young men becoming monks in the I think it's like the 12th century, because I was looking for a bunch of like what older people say about the young and their behaviors. You know, and by the way, the craziest discovery I found, and amongst that was talking about how all of these young people had turned to heavy reading and writing, and how they spent all their days indoors avoiding the sunshine, and how they never left their home, and it wasn't sex, it was their reproductive responsibilities were given way to the literature and the academia, you know, like, and I think that we've seen this. We see this over and over and over again. Now, mind you, I do not underestimate the impact of this technology, and often, hey, Lita, what's happening? Organic Black, welcome to you all. I'm so glad you could be here. And Tom and I are having a discussion actually about some of the things that I was just sharing, and also he has some wonderful points of view about all this. Yeah, there are. I think that there are a lot of examples where this kind of thing has happened, but the impact of the technology and its sway on the minds is where there's concern. I do think that it is enough people that it can affect, you know, a larger political or social environment in the Western world. That is a very first world response and a little alarmist in some ways, but I also think that we just keep an eye on these things, you know, just like history has always done. You just keep an eye on it, and normally it rubber bands back. I think you're all going to get laid. You know, I've said that over and over.
I don't know. There's I guess you're right. Every generation has some gripe with the next. But I don't know. I feel like the ease with which we can propagate ideas nowadays, and you know, doomsday theories in the past had their weight, but nowadays they have more potency in terms of distribution, in terms of propagation.
Oh, I agree.
So I don't know. It's an assumption probably, but I assume that more people will be inhabited by these ideas and the feelings that comes with it nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, we can apply that on a number of levels. I think the proliferation speed is actually also something we should take into consideration.
But as you said, it's the same thing with books, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I'm
well,
wrong.
It's a hard comparative because in one way I could say, okay, so it was probably relative speed because information passed at a relative amount of travel speed at the time period. You know, you were going to get the dissemination by the time it got to the bottom rung. It was probably a total game of telephone, you know, and it was probably really, really messed up. Whereas we get a game of telephone that is just clipping, you know, or cutting context, you know. So we could compare in certain ways the speed and others, but once again, I normally, well, this comes back to that balance thing we were talking about, where to recognize kind of the impact, we have to take the biasing and also just weed out all the stuff that we've seen before and see what's different. And the one thing I noticed that's different is, one, there is a negative intention in the sales practices to make people, the young people, feel like they're not as good as something else. When we've all felt that. Shit, I use the example of they told us, the hip-hop generation, we're all going to be dead by the time we were 25. Literally. Like on TV. So, regularly. It's crazy when I think about that. They're like, can you imagine if we were telling you guys, like your generation, oh, by the way, you have a likelihood of being gone by 25. This whole generation would be freaking out twice as bad. Like, you know. But do
you think, what's your take on the environmental situation?
The environmental situation is a very interesting thing to me because I think that my generation in particular was fed a lot of information early on about supporting and protecting the planet.
Tell me, sorry to cut you off,
that's
but
right.
Tell me if, because, and again, I apologize for this, but
no apology. What's this about?
So, is it true, because I've read somewhere that theories about the threshold for environmental crisis, the theories on the moment where we'll reach that threshold,
the crux,
has been like there are theories that goes back to the 1880s. Is that true?
There are different variations.
I've heard
that
they've been saying that for 100 years.
They've been saying different versions of observation that we should be aware that things are changing, and that from the moment the Industrial Revolution started, people around the world saw impact That's really where we see these things, and some of the actual scientific value didn't come into real play, like as far as peer-reviewed and provable, until maybe the 60s, late 50s, when it became something where the national interest or the military the national security interest came into play, and then it became more of a science than an observational thing, where the travelers of the world were seeing something happening, and it could be anecdotally associated. So this is a thing where when I was a child, the numbers haven't changed too much. They started telling us 2028 or 2032. And those numbers have stayed pretty much the same. Now it's 2040, so that we've moved it up. We've done some work. So
didn't Al Gore claim that it was 2012?
I don't remember that. The numbers.
Yeah, in his documentary, he said 2012.
Oh, it's been years since I watched that. I don't think I even paid much attention to it.
I just feel like, from what I've read, they've been talking about this for 100 years, and I feel like they've been moving the goalposts every time. And I don't know. It seems kind of weird because you were talking about demoralizing the youth in a way. I wondered if you include these theories in that kind of manipulation.
I think that there's a lot of different ways that just general information that can be misconstrued or taken, as the only information that can often just do its own damage to a whole group of people.
So you think there's some truth to these theories, but you think it's also by some other parties manipulated to demoralize some people?
I think there's a definite piece of it. I wouldn't say that the majority of any intent is to do that, obviously, but I think that there are parties that do that. I know there are. In his case, or in that case particularly, one of the things that's important to remember is people in that sphere specifically have very good intentions, so their mistakes tend to be blindness and not omission of lie to be insidious or to get you to feel a certain way, but rather that they're so down for a cause that they don't, this takes it back again, balance that shit out, so that the message becomes more important than a lot of the information at hand. And so in some cases, the bleaker choice will be made for a Hollywood moment. That's another thing about that movie. Anytime you're watching movies and stuff like that. But Tom, I'm going to keep it moving today just a little bit. I appreciate you coming in. You can more than welcome to hang out. I'm about to watch the rest of this thing about the what it's like to live to be 100. And one of the theories today, and by the way, I'll tag this back in, is one of the greatnesses of man, one of the greatnesses of you and I, is that we get to go through this rubber bandy experience that seems all important and all consuming, and for each one of us it is, and that's real. And that's one of the things that I think is great about life and each one of us, is that we have to overcome our own amazing little story, amazing movie, not to minimize, but it's our own. If we allow it to be, it could be this wonderful thing that is even in the boredom, even in the normalcy. So I think that's...
I'm eager to hear all that. I'm gonna see you in chat, Aaron.
Righteous. I'll see you there, Tom. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime. You're welcome all the time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good one. Tom Bombadil. And if you don't know the history of Tom Bombadil, go check it out. There's a couple of videos out there that he sent me. I actually should do an episode just about the background of that, Tom, because that's a wonderful story. What is it like to live to be 100? And by the way, I apologize right away for the fact that there's only one shade of gray in this video. Oh, not that one. In this one. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, I should press play. There
in my mind. And mix them up together first and then pair them up. And I think there are quite a few people out there that would be very, very happy to be together because they are such lovely people that they are. Emilia Teresa Harper. Teresa. It's Teresa because it's Czechoslovakian.
Born in 1913.
My goodness me. 3 is my lucky number. I have always been lucky. I've never been unlucky, touch wood. Oh, there's wood underneath there. I was in Czechoslovakia when I was a young girl, and I was living with my grandparents because my father was a prisoner of war. We came over to England to be with our father when he was released from the war. Everything makes me happy. I love talking to people. I like doing things. I like going out shopping. Once I go out shopping, I don't want to come back. I don't think there is anything that I really need to do because I've done practically everything that I ever wanted to do.
And that's something, by the way,
past.
Is on every TV.
I've got beautiful memories, you know. I can
one of
live
the things
happily
that I
forever
tend to
on.
talk about a lot with people, that the value of experience cannot be underestimated as far as filling the cup or vessel that is us. If we allow ourselves to experience more, if we allow ourselves to appreciate even the small things and to find many different facets of options in life, I believe we can really be as great and magical, if you want to call it that. Not saying you're going to be throwing unicorns and rabbits out of your ankles and you're pulling them out of your ears. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying having that wonder in you, just like when you were a little kid, when you didn't know what was about to happen next, when everything was exciting. This is important. This is important because we have the possibility of an incredibly long life, and the more we learn, and the more love we share, and the more things that we find in life, the greater life becomes, I would postulate.
So, because of my lovely memories.
And just like she said, it's because of her lovely memories, by the way. Because the more memories you build, the more you take with you.
Up to the top.
Because, by the way, if you really think about it, if you really break it down,
I will.
Your memories are stored in an electronic environment, and that electronic environment is energy, and energy cannot be destroyed nor made, because all matter exists at all times at this point, as far as we understand. Now that may change, but for the moment, part of the beauty that makes us great, once again, is our connection to that. So don't forget, our memories and experiences are the things that carry on. Whether our name is engraved in stone, or you got the 12 Bugattis, or somebody decided that you should win the pennant, or the CEO ship, or if none of that happens, you're still great. You existed on a dust spot in the middle of a vacuum. Think about that shit. Take it in. Really enjoy it. Sorry. It's a wonderful day to be able to look outside, hear the birds sing, and think that to yourself, oh my God, there's birds. I know how to see them. I can't have a word for that. How rad is that? And I don't think we should underestimate any of this stuff, frankly. I take it really seriously, in the sense that sometimes greatness is found in just sitting there and taking in the world from me. And I wouldn't let anybody chastise your choices, and if you're not hurting yourself and others. Take the great opportunities, take the leaps of faith, take the chances, because there's nothing to lose. There's really nothing to lose. We make the values at the end of the day for ourselves. Will you have accumulated? Tom says, I've often wondered if an illusion could create a sense of eternity. Imagine before you die that your brain creates such an illusion. What data and experiences will you have accumulated to build that new world? And I have many thoughts on that one. Yeah, I have another video. I'm probably going to do several more on that. And I'm trying to get Morg to interact and engage with me about this concept, because I believe that he and I having that, or they and I could have this conversation and get further in it. But there is there's definitely a concept of the greatness of ourselves being connected to this never-ending matter that can't be disconnected from us. We are it. You're it.
Was being fond of the water, and I
by the way,
did a
that's
lot of,
Nuki. I love Nuki. I actually did a
when I was
show
young,
on that
well,
pier
another
in that
part of
building.
my
So,
misspent
anyway.
youth. My name is John Dennerly.
Hi, John.
I'm 102 and a half.
Good for you, John. I'd be counting those halves too at 102.
I was born
Fuck
at
yeah.
an early age, before World War I, in Denton, Manchester. I've had a
Tom, I've heard this as well.
relatively easy life, even with the RAF 5 years of war. It was an adventure more than a penalty. Even
What
amongst
better
the
way for
bombs.
world control to get to Norman than by plucking up
wasted a
his
lot of
devoted
time.
beloved? Indeed, a dark,
My
dark day
childhood.
for Faith Pate.
Entertainment, that sort of thing. Even staying up.
We
till-
scientists call it polyscopic hypnovation, or a state of accelerated, unexpected events taking place in a perpetually delirious assault on the accepted and the unexpected.
What an appalling
midnight,
and
right
dreadful
through
muddle
to
for
breakfast time, and Mother would come down in the morning and say, "Haven't you been to bed, John?" And I'd say, "No, I've been listening to the Schenectady, New York on the radio."
You staying up all night
Yeah.
listening to the radio. Things have not changed. I'm telling you, we all do the same thing with a different medium. But most
You've just
importantly,
seen, and try not to remember everything coming up. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to announce that we are now broadcasting at your own personal level.
all right, sorry, let's get back to that.
And then sort of settled down once I became a pharmacist.
I love his tea set, by the way. How wonderful is that?
I don't feel any older than I was, 20, 30 years ago. Except with my...
How awesome is that? He's like, I don't feel any older than I was 20 or 30 years ago. So in his mind, he hasn't changed. He's learned. He's grown older. And he's the one, Robert's the one who was saying that he's been on the retirement, on the pension from the government for 38 years. I love that. His pension's almost 40. Almost at midlife. And not even half of his life. Think about that. It's only one little that's the things that I'm telling people, is that when we talk about folks hitting a wall at 30 or some insane stuff like that, that is a very projected fear state to be in. We are resilient creatures. We came from all kinds of tough environments. We have grown to be ourselves. We have grown to do crazy stuff. We have grown to be creative to the point where, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to share with you Grape Daily. This is Grape Daily, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not familiar, ooh, look at that. Look at that. Grape, hold on a second. Ooh. Grapes on the, come on. Grape Daily. Go with the Grape Daily. Ooh, oh, come on. They could have done a little better with that one. I want some. That's what I'm talking about. Just overflowing with grapes. Brah. Ladies and gentlemen, hobos and tramps, crossing mosquitoes and bull-legged ants. If these aren't the most amazing grape moments, I think you're missing Grape Daily. Don't miss out on the greatness of Grape Daily. Daily videos about grapes. The world is amazing, people. I'm telling you. You can trust me with your entertainment choices. Just like Grape Daily. Don't worry about it. Anyhow, where was I talking about? Oh! I think we should always reflect on how small we are to realize how awesome our experience actually is. How we seem big to ourselves, but in the perspective of the entirety of everything, we can't see. We can't be seen. We're just a little thing. So appreciate the fact that we are experiencing, and how there might be a lot in the universe and our own lives that we don't even perceive, like Tom was talking about, that may have an experience to themselves that we aren't appreciating. We don't really know when it comes down to it. We don't really know. That's one of these things that when we're egomaniacal or solipsistic and we forget that this is the perspective out to the edges, we aren't even out of our own galaxy. Now we're in the outer Oort cloud. Now we are leaving the rim of the galaxy, and now we are passing neighboring stars. That's how far away you have to get to actually even get out of, and now we're off in the arms of now we're out of the Milky Way. Now we're out of the local galaxy group. Look at how tiny we are. Look at the webbing of the galaxy and the cosmic web. And now back in. And just to reflect how this also mirrors itself in our own reality, in our own world, on the ground, as we get closer and closer and closer in. We ourselves are a mirror of the Omni. Every single one of us is a special speck. Take advantage of that, being a special fucking speck, please. That's really all I'm asking. And what I'm sharing is example, so that maybe I can inspire somebody else to find the crazy wonder of the world, and to inspire themselves to find a new answer, a new possibility, something little, maybe a grain of sand out of this, something that somebody said. I mean, that's up to you. I can't make that choice for anybody.
Love with the universe.
I don't know if you're familiar with Ram Dass, but I think Ram Dass has something to share with us about the subject.
One of the things that has changed in me is that I have begun to fall in love with the universe. And it's hard to talk about that. Let me read to you two poems. This first one is by a Buddhist monk named Thich Nhat Hanh. Very beautiful monk. I won't read the whole thing.
myself as well.
I am a frog swimming
I'll
happily
just say
in the
I
clear
had the real pleasure of both meeting him and hearing him speak on a couple of occasions, both at functions I worked at and then visited, but I met him originally as a young person backstage, not knowing who he was, until many years later. And even in that moment, I was very impacted by what he said to me and his behaviors and his energy. And many of the people around me saw that I didn't know who he was, and they let me be. And I'm so happy that they did that, because later on, finding out that he was Ram Dass meant so much more. That I was sitting backstage on a couch eating a salami sandwich I'd made for myself with some soda. I think I was talking about D&D or something. I was talking about something imaginative, and he thought that was interesting. And music. I was talking about music too, because my buddy John Classic was there with me. Anyhow. Yes, most of and I've taken that lesson many times in my life, by the way. LimeWire is, one, don't ever have expectations for other people, and if you have less expectations of other people, it makes them greater, frankly. And then you find out that they're, this normal person that you got along with sitting next to you had something to do with history, or some had little role, or, ran a corporation, or is known by millions, or changed the world. One seed at a time. Well, yeah, no, sometimes that happens too. I've missed out on several of my heroes. But I always say, don't make your heroes. That's what I'm saying. If you make them a hero and you know who they are, it tends to be that you hold them in higher esteem than maybe they should have, because the real people are always people. So when you find out that the person themselves is awesome, and then you find out that they're actually a revered individual, that's even more, or that their words are read by millions or whatever, I grew up with somebody, a couple different people. Actually, now it's kind of crazy to think about it. I've grown up with a couple different people that have ended up like that. And good on them, too. One in particular, Rhodes Scholar, poet laureate. Another one who is revered as a living god, literally. That's a whole other story. Someday I'll cover that. But by the way, somebody was mentioning something earlier in the chat that I'm going to go through the whole chat anyway, ways to date LimeWire, so that I catch back up at the end. But something said, and I want to roll back on this real quickly just so I can read it, because I don't want to forget it, because I think I need to do a video about it. I need to do a little show about this one. I think I love that, by the way. Yeah, the universe in your eye. And we were talking about NDE. That's right. I have a lot of experience and knowledge, actually, about NDE and the chemicals in our brain when a person dies, and that are exerted when a person dies. And I also have experience interviewing people, and I have some video on that. It's actually available already. But I have my own experiences that are talked about, and I was hoping to wait until one of the people that was in one of the situations with me, aka on the airplane with me in one of them, got back from tour before I shared this stuff, because it's such a good story. It needs a corroborator, so you know that this shit is real. And I have direct access to the person who has some of the funnier or more scary responses to things, because we had the polar opposite experience in the matter. So, but I want to get his thoughts on this as well. He's more pragmatic and more. Anyways, I'll keep moving. Life can be magical if you allow it to be. If you fall into somebody else's patterns of telling you that things can't be, whatever it is, you might miss out on all the great opportunity and doorways that are probably open to you at every given moment of the day. It's really about seeing them and knowing what they look like, and then being courageous enough to step through them, and in my case, being a fool and going where angels fear to fucking tread. Because angels, frankly, they're just cogs in the wheel if you think about it. They're here to serve alongside our better nature. But I digress, right? That's pretty much what the show is. I think That and reminding you that you are great. I should just like, hold on a second. I'm gonna see if she will never respond to me. I know, but I still. What time is it right now? It is 4:10. It is it's way too late. It's way too late. I was just gonna invite Kidology, and just be like, you are great. All right, have a great day. I really want to do that right now, but I feel like people would be like, what? Aaron, what? I should just do that. Actually, let me get the courage to do this. I should get the courage to do this. I want to do this. I just feel like it would derail so far after the 4th or 5th one. Okay, I'm gonna think about this. One's in the chat if I should just pick a bunch of people in my invites into the chat room just to say, hi, you're great. Because honestly, it is so embarrassing to people. That's actually what I'm thinking about, because we watched a video on this last week where, when you tell people, I like you, when you tell people, you're fantastic, I think you have great qualities, I think there are so many things that make you special, that make the world more wonderful with you in it. When you tell people that, they have a very emotional response. And that's actually what I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about like, oh, I'm embarrassed about it. No, I don't want to cause embarrassment for anybody, to be frank. So let me just put it out to you. I should just read the list. I will only skip a very few. Grace Thorpe, you're great. Fairy Queen, you're great. Emperor Dave, you're fucking great. Who is this? I wish it would open up more. Damn, I can't read all the names. Wouldn't it be easier to get on their show asking to contribute to their content rather than the opposite, maybe more easily welcome? Oh, I don't care about content. That whole clout crazy thing, this is, the show is about me sharing example. I don't care about all that other stuff. If there's a conversation to be had, that's one thing. I'll hop on somebody's show and take part and engage. I'm me. Everything I've done in my life, I know, is like a snowball rolling downhill, and it's just a matter of time, because I engage in ways that most people don't realize we all have the keys to do. I've done this my whole entire life. I'm in my 4th phase. I just spent 30 years doing what most people dream of doing, and I did it on a regular. I did it when I wanted to, and I did it how I wanted to, with who I wanted to. Well, I'm not a wealthy person. I'm wealthy, I'm rich in experience and love. Oh, well, yeah, I don't. Yeah, they may, exactly. And that's the other thing is they may want some coverage, or they may, this is the other thing is in some of these cases, as I read these names, I do this altruistically, as Tom was pointing out, because I think it's important that even this little seed, if 4 people saw it, they carry that into their day and they spread it in the world. And love is the most potent virus. Care, self-care, care for others, compassion, empathy, a use of reasoning to see more than one side, but to see the world as multi-schooled and possible of just about anything that we set our minds to, as long as we give it the time and the credence and the grace for ourselves and others. Man, the world is magical if you let that happen. I've seen cities get built in days. Literal cities that maintained hundreds of thousands of people for a short period of time and then were torn apart in just about the same amount of time. Okay, maybe a week. It always takes a little bit longer to tear it down. But that's even more important to know. It always takes a little bit longer to tear it down than it does to put up. And that's in all things for ourselves. When we build ourselves up by seeing our strong suits, addressing our weak suits, getting rid of the old suits and refreshing, learning new things, and never giving into the pressures of the people who might tell you that you can't. That gives our world a scope and a scalability that, believe it or not, may sound magical, but it's way more reasonable than deciding that there's no answer but one. Yes, indeed, Tom. Stop getting dragged in the tumultuous and become the third eye. You see all encompassing. Yeah, see from the fourth wall, from the direction of what you may not know, in perception at least, to know it's there. From what you can imagine, from what someone tells you, from what you see of yourself, and what can be assumed. There's so many portions of it. I like the Tree of Life thought that there are actually 11 partitions to the observational reality, all made up of a different esoteric and or ideological, philosophical modality, including death as a quiet, silent, invisible one as the 11th position. Many beliefs have this, but once again, I can talk about that stuff to no end. What does a true master have to say?
Water of a pond. I am also the grass snake who, approaching in silence, feeds itself on the frog.
Oh, you know what I didn't finish? Hold on. Let me finish this. Wick, you are fucking awesome. You are great. Durka, you're great. Man, I wish I could read the full. Why is it cutting it off? Damn, I hate that. I hate this. I don't like this. Everybody in my list: Redlin, Tomfoolery, Doobie, Jenny, Small Pancake, Large Pancake, Joe, Sassafras, Lactoid, Trash Cat, Rabbit Wombat, Sick. Okay, I will say Ben. Did I already say Ben? Mike TV, Gopnik, Corey Campbell, Moondust. Arian is in there too. Good God, I know a lot of people in here. Xander Cruz, Speakeasy. Whoever Coconut TVs, I don't remember who that is. But Brianna Wu. Tropical Heat, even though we yelled at each other the other day. Mando, Benio, I'm leaving so many. Adarius, OG Patrice, Weaponized Discourse, The Gaytheist. You're all fucking awesome. I haven't spent a lot of time looking at it. A couple people have told me I need to spend some time looking at the Crucible. I'll let you know. That's a Monday through Wednesday thing though. I will definitely get into that stuff.
I am the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks. I am also the merchant
and if you're watching on Twitch, you're great too. Thank you for being here.
To Uganda. I am the 12-year-old girl, refugee in a small boat who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by a seafarer. I am also the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. My joy is like spring, so warm it makes flowers bloom in all walks of life. My pain is like a river of tears, so full it fills up all the 4 oceans. Please call me by my correct names, so that I can hear at the same time all my cries and my laughs, so that I could see that my joy and pain are but one. Please call me by my correct names, so that I could become awake, so the door of my heart be left open, the door of compassion. All my names. The quality of love has no boundaries. There's no other in love. There is us at one level, and at the deeper level, there is only I. We are merged in love. Call me by my true names. The other quote is still in dualism, but it's on the...
True, Speakeasy does chase the hate crowd, but one of the interesting things that I've noticed is that he's solving a murder mystery right now. A very intense murder mystery. He's literally doing Thin Blue Line, and I've mentioned it to him, and he kind of gets it, but I don't even think he intends to be doing what he's doing. He just happened to be following a story about Jimbo, the dude on his thumb, which was hilarious. I was there when he drew that. Oh my God, I laughed for like 25 minutes while he just did it literally looked like the same dude in the frame while he was doing Jimbo in the thumb. That was amazing. That was amazing. Yes, he does some of that, but I think he's pulled that crowd into a kind of an intellectual atmosphere in some of a sort, because they are solving a murder mystery right now. And I think they've got some incredible evidence that they keep pulling up, and don't ever underestimate that you know what I'm saying? That Appalachian culture. What's funny is his audience and his interest is very Jerry Springer, so he knows his audience. And this is one of the things about good broadcasters, frankly, or good performers, that they know who they're speaking to. And oh yeah, absolutely. And we never get a chance to actually talk because everyone in the panels we're on is on something insane, or he's on the other side. He is on the other side of a Thorpe panel that we're like. We definitely could have some. I've been thinking about that, about how I could approach that, and like shared hip hop history or something wacky like that. Absolutely. I've definitely been thinking about that. And he's actually a funny, nice guy. He is very funny. Some of the things he says are so wry, and he's Canadian at that. So it's I'm interested in what his background is all about because of that.
Edge. It's a quote from the poet Kabir. Since the day when I met with my Lord, there has been no end to the sport of our love. I see with eyes open and smile, and behold his beauty everywhere. I utter his name, and whatever I see, it reminds me of him. Whatever I do, it becomes his worship. Wherever I go, I remove round him. All I achieve is his service. When I lie down, I lie prostrate at his feet. Whether I rise or sit down, I can never forget him, for the rhythm of his music beats in my ears. Now, in the states of awareness, where you see there is one, there are no boundaries, there are no separatenesses. And then as that one starts to come into form as separate, you look at the separate forms it has taken with a quality of awe and wonder when you're looking from there. When you're looking from the point between what's called the form and the formless, right at the edge, and you look down at form, or out at form, or up at form, I know there's no direction. You look at form, you see the absolute awful beauty of form. And you see, as Plato talks about it, the law.
Oh yes, Tom.
The law that you appreciate
he's a Baba,
as
so he
what you
definitely
call
follows
God
the Buddhist
oftentimes
teachings.
is just all form in law. It's all lawfully related. It's called the Tao in Chinese, the way of things. It's the way in which all forms are related to all other forms. And you look and you see it's perfect. You can look in physics or chemistry or astronomy or astrology or psychology or music, or wherever you look, you begin to see that forms are related all to all other forms, all in lawful ways.
Which is one of these points that I like to talk about, because we're so teeny and we feel so big. But we are related and interrelated, and we can see our form whether we look inside ourselves or at the universe around us, and we can see a mirror image. Even though it's not exact to what we might imagine is mirrored, it is. You can just look at the form of plants and land and our lungs. Well, it's more than that. It's fractal in math, Tom, if you think about it. That imprint at the smallest level is a repetition that mirrors both for utilitarian purpose. Yes, we are giants to quarks. We are giants to, there's a new one, quarton, something like that, where it's like 1,000 times smaller than a quark or something insane. Yeah, there's a whole new small. And we'll probably keep seeing small, because the mirror, I don't think, really ever ends, which, talk about awesome and great. Think about this. We're still experiencing at that tiny little level. We're still here. I'm clicking buttons. I'm making music. I got video behind me comparing the image. How great is that? Have I told you recently? You're great? I'm not just saying this. No, I know. You're here right now. You're willing to be here, take part and engage one way or the other, even if you're lurking. You're great. Don't miss out on that. That's from me to you, frankly.
It gets interesting when you get down to quarks and things like that, but everything above that is pretty low. And there is an interesting term when you look at the way in which those things are all lawfully related. You say,
Tom, patterns and isomorphism at every scale.
My
We're
guru
just one
in India
iteration.
used to say to me, Ramdas, don't you see it's all perfect? I'd say, perfect? Perfect? What about Bangladesh? What about Africa? What about tyranny? What about violence? What about greed? Don't you see it's all perfect? Can't you step back for a moment from your humanity to see the way of things? Can't you see the way it's all lawfully unfolding? The question is, have you the courage to see what you're seeing? Or does it seem to take away your humanity? Because
I think
when
about
you
that
look
as well.
and you say it's all perfect,
Woo-hoo! Bless!
the problem is it's so impersonal.
Tom, this is such a wonderful thought. I'm glad you brought this up. Because great is a matter of perspective. And I often wonder if we've missed the messages from the tiny beings who didn't have the voice, who were moving at such a high rate of speed that we never saw them. But they spoke to us repeatedly. I would even argue, based off of what we know from the fractalin output, or the messaging output of certain crop circles, not the ones that were made by man, but the ones that really truly have been proven to be crop, circles come out of nowhere. And strangely enough, they're the most complex ones. Turns out some of them are music, some of them are images, some of them are responses. And by the way, if you didn't know, the UK and the US have been sending messages for the past decade in a wheat field and getting responses, and not from a human. It's a military site. Y-Files has an incredible coverage on it. Y-Files, of course. Have I seen the video rendering they took from what's going on the helixes of our DNA? I've seen a bunch of different videos, of the, of chemicals getting dragged across your neurological structures, or the dendrites carrying I don't want to get it wrong. It's actually a chemical in the brain. I can't remember. I've actually shared the video here. It was probably about 6 weeks back or so. But yes, there's all sorts of amazing things going on inside the structures of our DNA as well. We are great because we are mirroring everything around us, and we are just a complex form of this wonderful imaginative structure insect-like creature as well. Yeah, we have a bit of everything. We're great.
Somebody falls down in front of you and you say, karma. See, there's no warmth to it. But if you come down into your human heart,
Sorry, if you don't have a snack, make sure to get one.
the pain is unbearable.
Sunday, for God's sake.
Because there is so much suffering everywhere. And you look, and there's rape, and there's child molestation, and there's ecological insensitivity, and
the images I was talking about, they're videos that aren't renderings. They're actual, like, microscopic video of a tiny little, I wish I had the correct word for it. It's a little structure, like a white blood cell piece in the brain that carries a massive, like if it would be us, it'd be like I'm carrying the entire house on my back. Except it's just dragging it along and it's walking along the dendrite. We have, we have structures within structures within structures. And although we aren't aware of them, it may be that they are not aware of us as well. But aware in some way, shape, or form, which makes it all really magical and great if we allow it to be that. It is hard to differentiate ourselves from those things if you give it the grace and the perspective of flying all the way out. Yeah, legs and everything. Yeah. If you give it the grace of flying all the way out in perspective to the far edges of the galaxy, to the galactic web, where you can't even see our speck inside of the arm, inside of the Oort clouds, inside of the Kuiper belt, inside of our galaxy. For whomsoever should bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the pangs or despise of love. This makes me think about something, the amazingness of life. Okay, so this book, this is called The Life and Teaching of the Masters of the Far East. This was originally published and copywritten in Santa Monica, California, actually, in 1924. It was written in 1894 in the based on a diary, and so this is by a guy by the name of Baird T. Spalding. And Spalding was a preacher amongst many other people, and one of the people in the group actually penned the book that we get 7 Years in Tibet from. But this is another member of that journey, and his perspective was one of religious seeking. He was seeking deeper connection. He was seeking what was great about life. And in chapter 3, it has one of my favorite little stories about Emil, one of the masters, who is also one of the people who starts the journey with him and hands him off later on. Baird and his group. And I'm going to read to you the passage about how magical life can be, and how great we are, and how, well, you can take it however you want. This could be fable. I still don't know what to take of this. I think this is a diary where somebody wanted to impress upon others a very mystical journey. So I give it that, right? That biasing. But at the same time, it did impact all of us. See, these books, Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East by one Baird T. Spalding, inspired everything we know about the modern New Age movements and the esoteric movements of the early 20th century. These are one of the collections, books 1 through 6, that inspired generations to meditate and to find a higher self possibility, to give altered states of consciousness a credence that maybe the Western world hadn't thought about. It's the first time Judeo-Islamic Christian idealism and ideology allowed for the Far Eastern methods to creep in as a mirror of the greatness of life that they had seen as the Christ state before. So this might get a little deep, but I think you might enjoy it because it's also very whimsical and magical. Here we go. Chapter 3. We left this village for Ozma, a smaller one, about 90 miles distant. Emil assigned 2 younger men to accompany us. These men, fine, erect specimens of the Hindu type, were, and by the way, please apologize for any of the bias in here. It's 1894 when it was written. So, and it's also written by a preacher in 1894. So I should have said that first. So Emil assigned 2 younger men to accompany us. These men, fine, erect specimens of the Hindu type, were to have charge of the entire expedition. The perfect ease and poise with which they accompanied their task surpassed any of our former experiences. For convenience of identification, I am calling these 2 men Jost and Nepro. Emil was the one who received us and looked after our welfare at the village, from which he took our departure. He had many more years of experience than the others. Jost was an executive head of the expedition, while Nepro, with his assistant, Jost's assistant, saw out that all the orders were carried out. Emil sent us away with a few remarks in which he said, "You are about to start on your expedition with these 2 men, Jost and Nepro, to accompany you. As you travel, it will take about 5 days to journey to your next important stopping place, about 90 miles distant. I will tarry here for a time because it will not be necessary for me to consume that time to cover the distance," Emil says. "But I will be there to greet you. I wish to ask that you leave one of your party here in order to make observations and corroborate what may happen. In this way, time will be saved and he will be able to join the expedition not later than 10 days hence. We simply ask him to watch and report what he sees." We started with Jost and Nepro in charge of the expedition, and I wish to say that more business-like arrangements could not be well imagined. Every detail was complete and swung into line with the rhythm and precision of music. This harmony was maintained throughout the entire expedition, which lasted 3.5 years. The expedition lasted 3.5 years. So we're not just talking about, they took us on a 7-day journey, went right out on the hill. No. It was not a 4-hour tour turned into, no, this is a 3. They were like, "We're going away. See ya, honey. I hope I'm still good looking when I get back." Humans are fucking amazing. I wish here to add my impressions of Jost and Nepro. Jost was a fine, upstanding Hindu kind, efficient with no bluff nor bluster. Every order he gave was almost in a monotone and executed with precision and snap that caused us to wonder. From the very outset, we could see a finesse of character that caused much comment. Nepro, a wonderful character, was here, he was there, was everywhere, always cool, collected, and a marvel of efficiency, it says. There was always the same calm, accompanied by quiet precision of movement, with wonderful power to think and to execute. This was so marked that every member of the expedition commented upon it. Our chief remarked, "Those fellows are wonderful. It is a relief to find people who can think and execute." We arrived at the appointed village about 4 o'clock on the 5th day, and there was Emil to greet us as he had agreed. Can you imagine our amazement? We were quite certain we had come by the only traveled route and by the swiftest mode of locomotion in that country, except as the couriers go, and they travel in relays and go night and day. So here was a man, as we thought, well advanced in years, and one we felt would in no way be able to negotiate a journey of 90 miles in less than it took or required us to do in the same time. Yet here he was. Of course, we all tried to ask questions at once and were eager to hear. These were his words. And this is why I read this to you. "I said when you departed that I would be here to greet you, and I'm here. I wish to call your attention more fully to the fact that man in his right domain is limitless, knows no limit of time nor space. Man, when he knows himself, is not obligated or obliged to toil wearily along for 5 days to accomplish 90 miles. Man in his right estate can accomplish any distance. It matters not the magnitude, instantly. Now, a moment ago, I was in that village from which you departed 5 days ago. What you saw as my body still reposes there. Your associate, whom you left in that village, will tell you that until a few moments before 4 o'clock, I conversed with him, stating that I would go to greet you, and as you would arrive here about this hour, what you saw as my body is still there, and your associate still beholds it, although it is at present inactive. This was done simply to show you that we are able to leave our bodies and greet you at any appointed place at any specified time. These two that accompanied you could have accomplished the journey as I have. In this way, you will more readily realize that we are only ordinary humans of the same source as you. You. That's what he's saying. And that there is no mystery, but that we have developed the powers given all by the great omnipotent one, more fully than you currently have. My body will remain where it is until night. Then I will bring it here, and your associate will proceed on his way here as you did, arriving in due time. After a day's rest, we will journey to a small village, 1 day off, where we will tarry 1 night, then return here and meet your associate to see what his report will be. We will assemble this evening in the lodge. In the meantime, farewell. The point of that, the point of reading that, was the fact that that was observation. That's not the only report of that, nor the only report of that experience. As a matter of fact, there are at least 11 different accounts from different angles, at different points of view, in different diaries, and different recollections and collections of that moment. And I could go on to read you what the other person was experiencing. I can tell you the story. It's one of my favorites. He's sitting on a couch with the shaman who says, oh, I need the space. And he says, oh, sure. And he goes and sits on a chair. And he says, now, I want you to remember that it's going to be important to remember I told you this, because you're going to need to tell them that it was just before 4 o'clock that I left. And the guy who's sitting in the chair says, but how do you know it's 4 o'clock? He says, because it's that time of day. And then he slowly fades, the master fades away. Emil fades away. He said he fades away. Now, we're talking about matter. We're talking about reality. We're talking about perception. We're talking about magic. We're talking about the ethereal. We're intermingling them all. We're talking about possibility. We're talking about seeing more for ourselves. We're talking about the allowances to suspend the disbelief for a second and hear what is said. Because Emil also talks about later on, and I dare say this is definitely magical in description, where Spaulding says that Emil takes a glass of water, looks at it, and it turns to ice. And when they ask Emil, how did this occur? Emil says, well, I agreed with love and everything that it was ice. And that's very profound to me, because whether that's magically true doesn't really make a difference. If we agree with love, we are cooperating. If we agree with compassion, if we see the things that could be, the lesson is they generally do become that. But that suspension of disbelief, that allowance for ourselves to be greater, because you're fucking great. You are. Well, the whole world, the whole experience, the whole life gets affected by that. And before I go any further, I should probably let Alan Watts give you a little take on this.
The reason why certain people turn to philosophy, why I became a philosopher, was that since I was a little boy, I always felt that existence as such was weird. I mean, here we are. Isn't that odd? Of course it's odd. What do you mean by odd? Well, it's what's different from even. I mean, what's odd stands out. What's even lies flat. But you can't see the outstanding without the flat background. Here's the thing standing out. It's odd. Each one of you is odd. Strange, unique, particular, different. How do we know what we mean by that? Except against the background of something even, that is not differentiated.
Yeah, Tom,
like
it is
space.
affecting when you...
And so you get this philosophical itch.
When you see that
you begin to scratch your
that
head
mirror
and think
is
about
massive
why is
and
that
tiny.
so?
That's where I get my theory of all, my belief
Well,
that
after a while, you realize that's a meaningless question.
we
And you ask, how is it so?
are
That leads you
great.
into science and other investigation. So you want to know, what is it? I mean, this happening, this thing called existence. What is it? You ask that question long enough and it suddenly hits you that if you could answer it, you wouldn't know what terms to put the answer in. I mean, when we investigate the properties of nature, and we do get some answers, all the answers are in terms of particular structures, forms, patterns. And these can be measured, and their behavior can be predicted.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Yes, indeed.
But when I want to ask the question, what are the forms made of?
Yes, indeed.
I mean, what is it really?
I am
We
an
can't
unusual
think
and rare
of any
sort,
way
I'm told.
in which we could answer the question. Because we would have to have a class of all classes. When you ask the question, what?
I'm kind
it's
of
like saying,
I've been told
is you
I'm
is or is you ain't?
built out of a mold from a
Is
century
you animal?
long
Is
ago.
you vegetable? Is you mineral?
I would have done well in Poe's time.
Are you male or female? Are you a Christian or a Jew or a Hindu or what have you? We classify always to give an answer to the question, what is it? And when you classify, you distinguish an inside group from an outside group. Right. So what we want to know is, what is the group of all groups?
Is there a group
Well, we
of all
can't
groups?
imagine what the outside would be. So we can't answer the question.
Yeah.
What is it? So the physicists finally abandoned the quest for stuff. And they gave us a description of the universe entirely in terms of form. The pattern, not the stuff. When people ask, what's the what? Yeah, but you can't do that. What's the pattern made of? Surely mustn't there be an answer to that? See, what happens is, when you turn up the microscope, all stuff turns into form. It becomes articulate. You know, the carpet looks like some sort of stuff. But when you look at it under a microscope, you will see the crystalline structure of the nylon or whatever it's made of. See? They want to know, what are those crystals made of? All right? Turn up the volume, and you will find molecules. Turn up the volume, you find wavicles. But
Wavicles. I love
the
that.
wavicles must be of something. But of course they're not.
They didn't know what they were at the time.
We find substance or
String
stuff
theory was
totally vanishes.
really just on the fringe at that point.
You say, does it matter? What does that mean? Does it matter? Is it important? In other words, does it measure up to anything? Matter comes from a Sanskrit root matra, which means to measure. So from this root matra, we get, going on into Sanskrit, we get the word maya. And Maya is generally translated illusion, although it also means magic, creative power. The word illusion, switch over, we get that from Latin, and that comes from the Latin ludere, to play. Let's pretend that we matter. See, the world is a musical phenomenon. Good music never refers to anything except the music itself. You don't ask Mr. Bach, Mr. Ravi Shankar, what do you mean by this music? What is it intended to express? Listen. That's the meaning. Giraffes are giraffing, trees are treeing, stars are starring, clouds are clouding, rain is raining. And if you don't understand, look at it again. And people are people. Wow.
Most important. And wow.
We notice that all these suchnesses,
It's a big wow factor.
appear and disappear. They keep changing. They come and they go.
To express itself, yes.
But if you get hung up
And
on
keep
your
finding
particular
the best
form,
option.
I'll have
by
to alter the
permutation
language a
upon
little bit, because you see,
permutation of a
your
mirrored image.
form makes a duality, whereas you are your form. You're what you're doing. Now you think, for some strange reason, I must make that go on as long as possible.
Ah, speaking of the mirroring.
And therefore you think you have an instinct to survive.
It's not an instinct.
And so the only thing anybody can agree about today,
I think it's
so far as the discussion of ethical and moral problems
the
are
reason
concerned, is that
beyond
we ought to
instinct.
survive.
If I'm going to
Therefore,
boil it down.
certain forms of conduct have survival value and certain forms don't. But when you say to yourself, you must go on living, you put yourself in a double bind. Because you said to a process which is essentially spontaneous.
Yeah.
That it
And
must
guaranteed to end.
And the
Life
basic
is
form of the double
basically
bind, which
deadly.
is imposed upon all children.
It's going to kill you at some point.
Is you are required to do that which will be acceptable only if you do it voluntarily.
You heard me. Life's going to kill you at some
so
point.
when we say to ourselves,
live it up.
You must go on. The reason is, you see, that we are not living in the eternal now, where reality is. We are always thinking that the satisfaction of life will be coming later. Don't kid yourself.
That's the truth. Listen
Which
to
is
the
to
elders.
say,
Come on. They've been there. Did that.
Only suckers put hope in the future.
Stoicism has its place, but it's not the whole of the weight. So, before we go, I just want to share what other people would give you as advice about this.
The best advice I can give: take care of your children.
Listen and learn and be nice. Treat people how you want to be treated. Trust your heart and follow it. Just be myself, honestly, and don't care what people say.
You will succeed in life by keeping your
And it's
eyes
important
and
to
your
know
ears
Spinoza
open.
as alongside Nietzsche, as well as Freud, and
If you want something,
oh my
in
God,
this
why am I
life,
blanking
if you want
on?
it bad enough, you'll get it.
At the end of the day, I mean, you have
and
yourself.
Foucault, and
An intelligent mind is never bored.
Plan B distracts
God, there's so many.
Be a leader,
Sorry,
not
I'm
a
blanking right now.
When you get a cheeseburger
I apologize.
at a restaurant, make sure you say
There's
I
one
want
particular I
cheese
should know
and
off the-
meat and a bun.
Make friends with the chef.
I think
think a lot of people don't realize how many opportunities they're given on a daily basis, and to really go after
It's the one I always forget, but it's because it's so mundane.
Stay out of my way.
Something's happening, or you're talking to someone and you go, you know, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't sound right. Trust
Your
that
gut.
little inner voice.
The best advice I've ever gotten is from my parents, which is get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Let go.
Oh, that is incredible advice. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Why? Because the best experiences of learning, personally, that I've ever had, I don't know about you, come from being uncomfortable and then learning how to become comfortable, or getting outside of my own shell, or, you know, stretching into areas that maybe I thought were verboten but were totally welcoming. Stepping over that line that you didn't know you could cross, most of the time in your own self, rather than in the perception of others, because people most of the time aren't thinking about us at all. So why not take the chance? I think that's a wonderful piece of advice for back there, brother.
Life is short.
That was a teenager.
Don't worry about it. There's nothing, no problem right now that's gonna be that big in like a week, a month, a year.
You're never gonna spend your last day on Earth wondering why you did something, but why you didn't.
You could come up with 2 million reasons not to do anything, but you only need one reason to do something.
If you find yourself thinking something or believing something, think of the opposite and see if that is just as compelling.
I say it's easier to give support than it is to pick somebody up off the floor.
My friend, who's in 5th grade
That
with
is
me,
real.
started liking girls. I have no idea why, but he asked me if he should ask them out, and I said, follow your heart. Don't
What a
ever
good
fit
buddy.
into anyone's mold.
That's a good
everything
buddy.
positive.
That's
in
a
your
wingman.
life.
That positive energy will always attract positive circumstances.
What you perceive yourself to be, you become. You may as well be yourself because all the others are already taken.
Oh!
The interesting thing is,
oh, that was a body slam. She just body slammed the whole thing. She said, might as well be yourself because all the rest of them, they're taken. God damn. I'm going to leave it there. Seriously. I think that, yeah, I'm going to leave it there. How wonderful. That is wonderful. So, my friends, when we gather ourselves together here on a Sunday to think and talk and share, to express ourselves or not, we do it in the hopes that we can find, if anything, maybe even a little kernel to take away with us. And I hope you have. Because that's what we're about here. I mean, that's what I'm about. Sharing and interacting. Learning something new, finding new pieces, sharing with you. The ministry is only as it's allowed to be. Just like you. And it starts with that allowance. And that implies so many things. But the fact that we can even perceive that we get to make that choice, that we get to put our arms around that, have good, bad, beautiful, ugly, stanky, effervescent, flowing, and chunky experiences that we can share with each other. Friends, I don't need to say it too much. Hey, Emily! I don't need to say it too much, but I do know that if there's anything that I can share with you, it's this one simple message of today as I open the doors and set you free upon your Sunday. I believe we are great. We were a species on a tiny little dust ball like the Who's in Whoville, which makes us really magically special, if you think about it. I've got a freaking purple dinosaur that I can scratch imaginarily in front of me. There's a tiny headed avatar of me with a big old horse head spewing hearts and stars. This reality is fucking great. That makes everything better. Now, there are no simple choices, no simple options, no simple answers. Everything is complex. But that's also part of the beauty, because it's a mirror of the reason to keep moving forward and learning and growing interpersonally, emotionally, intellectually, to never stop. Life is long. We just saw 100-year-olds talk about how their retirement fund is older than a lot of people right now. You know, it's like, at least online. So a little compassion for yourself goes a long way. We all make mistakes. We're all got a lot of life to live and get through, especially now, younger generation, you're going to live for a lot longer. And have so much more amazing things to experience. I think we all do. And that's the producer telling me that time is wrapped up. I'm aronmsound. You've been here at the ministry. I guess I'm the pastor today for the ministry of the Flying Pig. I hope you've set your flying pig free. Where is that pig? I haven't seen. So lazy. So lazy. Let me come back in. Hey, don't forget, if you haven't already, to subscribe, smash the button. And if you have a large thumb or not, or just fingers, or you have a nub or anything, make sure to just smash. Get some smashing on anyways. If you're one of them youngsters, smash. Get some smash on. Yeah, thanks for being here. I hope you take something of this into your day. I hope you take it into your life, and I hope you realize that my message to you is definitely very simple. You're great. Have a wonderful day, all. Enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy your week. Once again, I'm aronmsound, your pastor minister for the Ministry of the Flying Pig. We also have the last episode of Eva and the AI stories tonight for a little while. I'm going to revamp her and do some work. Take her back online when I get it all straight. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 4 p.m.-ish, generally, I do Look Up the Remix, where I interject myself into conversations that most people don't like me involved in, or don't want me involved in, or don't have me involved in, but by way of which I take them somewhere else. So join me there, and my call-in on Friday, where I play Satan, total opposite of today. Thank you for being here. You're beautiful people, and like I said, you're great. Stay that way. Click.